Hello everybody and welcome to the Mark Goldbridge channel. This video is going to be called the investigation process. A few people have been asking me about this, and also I think the stuff I'm seeing on social media is quite dangerous in relation to what people are saying with regards to this Mason Greenwood investigation, where obviously today arrested on Sunday for serious offences and bailed today. And I also think it's, football's an international sport, and the laws of different countries who will be observing this, I think it's providing a little bit of confusion as to what is actually happening. So I said on my last stream on the United Stand, look, for me it's very clear what's happening. I used to work in the police a few years ago, or quite a few years ago now, but the process hasn't changed. It's the same. And somebody said, well, could you explain it? And I'm like, I don't really want to get into that on a football channel, but I could do it on my channel. So effectively, let's go through the process. First thing I would say is that we're not commenting on the Mason Greenwood case at all. That is an ongoing investigation, and it would be irresponsible to start observing that. However, investigation process, we can do a generic case and show how it can work, and then you can understand how, if that's relevant to what you don't understand, you could probably understand it a little bit more. So let's say that there is the case that the Mason Greenwood case is he was arrested at the weekend, in custody until today, so 3 days, and then he's been bailed. Okay, so that some people seem to think bail means you're going to court. You're not. Some people think bail means you're innocent. You're not. You technically are, because you're innocent until you're proven guilty, but you're not. Being bailed doesn't mean you're innocent. It means you're under investigation. So let's go through a process and explain how a case could work. So if somebody has committed, let's say theft. A theft has occurred, right? And somebody gets arrested for it, and you can change the offence to whatever you want. It can be an assault, it can be arson, it can be any offence you want. So you get arrested, okay? The police have arrested you because they've got suspicion that you've committed an offence, okay? And you can't just arrest anybody, because when you take them into custody, you can't just say, I felt like arresting them, so should we put them in the cell and question them? The custody sergeant will want the grounds for the arrest. So you will give them the offence, and your circumstances of your arrest must fit in with that offence, and please the custody sergeant, not please them, it must be satisfactory for them to say, okay, yes, you can bring them into custody. So you arrest somebody, you take them into court, into prison, I'm getting it wrong now. You take them into a police station, they've been arrested, and while they've been arrested, the first 24 hours is what you normally get, and you can interview them, you can put evidence to them, you can gather evidence, etc. Now, how long somebody's in custody doesn't really matter, because you can be in for custody for a few hours, you can be in custody for 2 or 3 days if extensions are added, and as we saw in the Mason Greenwood case, 24 hours in custody was extended from Sunday until Wednesday. So, they must have gone for an extension of 96 hours or something like that. However, when you've got somebody in custody, there are numerous outcomes, but there's 3 main outcomes here. The first one is release without charge. So basically, you arrest that person for the theft. Obviously, there's been a theft. You've got evidence that there's been a theft. You interview somebody, and through your investigations, you realise they didn't do it. So you're released. You can go about your normal business. You release. That's it. End of story. Unless new evidence comes to light, in which case you may rearrest them or arrest somebody else. The second scenario is bail. Now, bail can happen for a number of reasons, but bail is bail pending further investigation. So you arrest somebody for that theft. You haven't got the evidence to say that they haven't done it, but you haven't got enough evidence to say, right, we're going to charge you and take you to court. So you would bail them for further inquiries. And that person could be bailed for a week. They could be bailed for a few weeks. And in that time, you'll do further investigations whilst they're not in custody. So they could go back home. They might have bail conditions. Those bail conditions could be, don't go near the shop where the theft occurred. It could be, don't go within the vicinity of where that shop occurred. Or, you report to a police station every day at this time. There's all sorts of bail conditions that you can have. But while you're on bail, you're still under investigation. You're just not being held in a police station, which means that the time limits of being in custody, so remember I said 24 hours, whilst you're in custody, that clock is ticking for 24 hours. And if you get an extension for 96 hours, that clock ticks while you're in custody. If you bail somebody, the minute they leave the police station, that clock stops. So if you're in custody for theft and you've been interviewed and 12 hours has passed and they say, right, we haven't got enough evidence to charge this person, let's bail them. The minute you walk out after 12 hours, there's still 12 hours left on that custody clock. You can go on bail for weeks, but when you come back in you could be brought back into interview and the clock will start again with 12 hours left. So the clock stops, you are not in custody anymore, but the investigation can carry on. So while they're on bail for a few weeks, I could be getting statements about the theft, I could be getting CCTV, I could be doing all sorts of things. And after that's been done, and you've done all the evidential things you need to do, you can then go, right, I don't think I've got enough to even try and charge them. I'm going to release them without charge and the investigation against them's over. Or you could be like, I've got enough evidence now, let's get them back in and interview them. Or I've got enough evidence now, I'm going to go to the Crown Prosecution Service, which is the lawyers for the police, and say, I think we should charge, and they might make a decision on that. So bail is basically further investigation. You're still under investigation, you're just not in custody, and you're not at that threshold of saying, let's charge them and go to court. So being on bail is very much like being in custody. The investigation is going on, but at any point, they might get to a point where, right, this is not going to go anywhere, let's end it, there's no investigation, or let's get them back in to interview them more, or let's go and charge them. The most important fundamental in this, and I said this on Sunday when it broke, and some people didn't like it because it was trial by social media, the most important thing in this country is innocent until proven guilty, because somebody can be on bail for quite a while and you can't have a situation where people are saying, well, they clearly did it. It doesn't work, because we've had miscarriages of justice in this country and every other country, and it's unfair when people are being tarnished as guilty for something when they might not be. And on the other hand, people will say, well, they're on bail, they haven't done it. So it's very important to understand that this is a process, and patience in any investigation is important. And ultimately, no decision has been made, and it's not your decision to make, and it's not my decision to make. It is the decision of the people who are investigating to do their job and do it thoroughly. And I think that's what everybody wants to happen. Because imagine if, I'm investigating that theft, or you're investigating that theft, and you go, oh, I could do a little bit more work, but I don't really want to. So, look, it's not going anywhere. Let's just end the investigation. They're free to go. And then, there's more thefts, and you think, oh, maybe I should have carried on. So it does take time. And people say, well, you've arrested them. There's a reason to arrest them. So they must, there's evidence. Why can't you charge them on that? Because when you lock somebody up for that theft, you might think, oh God, there's loads of CCTV cameras I need to look at. There's loads of witness statements I need to get. There's loads of, downloading phone evidence and all sorts of stuff to do. There's loads. I can't do it all in 96 hours. It's going to take me a few weeks. And when I go to court, I want the best possible case. So that's going to take time. Or it might be, that evidence I've got is not very good. I need more than that, and I need to try and find it. And when you're looking for it, you might not find it, and you might go, look, well, that's the end of that. You might, in that theft case, you might have somebody who has reported the theft, and then they're like, actually, I don't want to give you a statement. Well, you've had a theft. I know, but I don't really want to go to court. I don't really want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. In which case, you've got to, there's been a theft, but the witness doesn't want to take part in it. In which case, you're like, well, there's definitely been a theft, but I've got no one to give me a statement to say that it's happened. So, there are barriers, there are things to... And this is why people should not ever try and, solve a case. It's not Inspector Morse, it's not whatever else is on the TV, it's real life, and specialist people will be working on this and investigating this and every other case. And I think people just want to, as I said at the start, there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think the fundamental thing in your mind is you're not in charge of this case, and you don't know the full details of this case. If somebody's been bailed, there's clearly things going on that people don't know about, and challenges potentially, and if it was, well, I'm not even going to say if, we just don't know. But certainly, I think that the best scenario is that people just, don't pass judgment on something that they clearly don't know much about at the moment. And in time, maybe things will come out. But I think to understand the process is to understand what I've just said there, which is that there are three outcomes when somebody's in custody: bail, charge, release without charge. And bail really is for further investigation, because, and ultimately, if you don't bail if you think you've got enough to charge, so there's more investigation that needs to be done, or you don't bail if you think there's more evidence to become and that you need to investigate before. Because as soon as you charge somebody as well, you start the time clock for going to court, and people don't want to necessarily do that when they've not completed their investigation, and there's a lot more to do. So I just think, as I said, trial by social media is not the way to go. People commenting on things that it's not their job to comment on is never going to be helpful. And I said it on Monday, and I saw a few people saying it as well. Patience is going to be the key in this. There will be an outcome at some point, and like most things, some things just can't be rushed. You've got to make sure that you get everything right. You're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with people's emotions, and if you get it wrong, you could mess that up in all sorts of areas. And whether you agree with it or not, everybody has the right to. Everybody's rights need to be protected here. That's the law of the land as well. That's what it's all about. So I hope that's explained it as well as it can be explained. And I hope some parts of that make sense to people. Thanks very much for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.